My husband's sister sold my jewelry behind my back and spent the money on herself. When I found out, I was ready to. Part 1. The Empty Jewelry Box. My name is Olivia Bennett, and I never thought a jewelry box could destroy a marriage. For 8 years, I trusted my husband, Ryan. And for almost as long, I trusted his family. That trust ended on a Thursday morning when I opened my bedroom drawer and found my mother's necklace missing. At first, I wasn't worried. I searched the closet, then my handbag, then the bathroom. Nothing. So I opened the drawer again. That's when I noticed something that made my heart stop. The necklace wasn't the only thing missing. My mother's diamond earrings were gone. The gold bracelet she'd given me before she died was gone. And the emerald ring I'd received on my 25th birthday. Gone. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty velvet boxes. Those pieces weren't just jewelry. They were everything I had left of my mother. I immediately called Ryan. "Did you move my jewelry?" "No, why?" "It's missing." He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Maybe you misplaced it." I felt irritated. "I've kept those pieces in the same drawer for years." "Okay, I'll help you look when I get home." Before I could answer, someone knocked on my bedroom door. It was Ryan's younger sister, Vanessa. She had been staying with us for several weeks after her divorce. "Everything okay?" she asked. I looked at her. "Some of my jewelry is missing." Her face changed for half a second. Then she frowned. "Are you saying I took it?" "I didn't say that. You were looking right at me." Ryan's voice came through the phone. "What's going on?" Vanessa immediately started crying. "Ryan, Olivia thinks I stole her jewelry." I closed my eyes. Within 30 seconds, Vanessa had turned herself into the victim. Ryan called me back a few minutes later. "Liv, you need to apologize." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Your sister hasn't even explained where she was when my jewelry disappeared." "She's family." "So am I." Silence. Then he said, "Don't make this bigger than it is." That sentence stayed in my head all day. Because to Ryan, maybe it wasn't a big deal. But to me, someone had entered my bedroom and taken pieces of my mother's life. And I wasn't going to let it go. That evening, after everyone went to sleep, I checked our security camera. We had one facing the hallway. I started scrolling through the recordings. Monday. Nothing. Tuesday. Nothing. Wednesday afternoon. I stopped. Vanessa walked into my bedroom. She looked around, and she opened my jewelry drawer. My heart started pounding. She removed something. I zoomed in. It was my mother's gold bracelet. Vanessa looked toward the hallway, slipped it into her purse, and walked out. I replayed the footage 3 times. There was no mistake. I finally knew who had taken my jewelry. But I still didn't know what she'd done with it. The next morning, I waited until Vanessa left the house. Then I called a jewelry store near our neighborhood. I described my mother's bracelet. The woman on the phone asked me when I'd last seen it. "About a month ago." She paused, then said, "Mrs. Bennett, we actually had a very similar bracelet sold here last week." My heart dropped. "Who sold it?" She checked the record, then gave me a name. Vanessa Carter. I gripped the phone. "Are you sure?" "Yes." I thanked her and hung up. Then I searched for the other missing pieces. The earrings had also been sold. So had the necklace. And the emerald ring. Vanessa hadn't taken my jewelry because she wanted to borrow it. She had been selling it, piece by piece. I calculated the approximate value. Nearly $11,000,000. I sat silently at the kitchen table. Then Ryan walked in. He looked at me. "What's wrong?" I looked straight into his eyes. "Nothing." He smiled. "Okay." I smiled back. But this time, I wasn't telling the truth. Because I had made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Vanessa. Not yet. I wasn't going to scream at Ryan. Not yet. I was going to find out exactly how much she'd taken. And exactly where the money had gone. And when I finally confronted them, I wanted to make sure neither of them could lie their way out of it. The next morning, I behaved as if nothing had happened. That was the hardest part. Vanessa walked into the kitchen wearing the same innocent expression she'd been wearing for weeks. "Good morning, Olivia." I smiled. "Morning." She had no idea I'd watched her steal my mother's bracelet. And she definitely didn't know I'd confirmed that she'd sold it. Ryan came downstairs a few minutes later. He kissed me on the forehead. "Everything okay?" "Of course." He smiled. "Good." I watched him leave for work. Then I waited, because I had learned something important. The jewelry wasn't the real story. The money was. I made a list of every piece that was missing. My mother's necklace, her bracelet, the diamond earrings, my emerald ring, a gold watch Ryan had given me, 2 other necklaces. The total value was close to $18,000. But Vanessa had been buying expensive things. I'd noticed it before, but I'd never paid attention. A new designer handbag, new shoes, a weekend at an expensive hotel. And just last week, she'd posted a photograph wearing a brand new diamond bracelet. I stared at that photograph for several seconds. Then I checked the date. The bracelet had appeared online 2 days after my mother's necklace disappeared. That couldn't be a coincidence. I started saving screenshots. Then I checked the jewelry stores. The more I searched, the worse it became. Vanessa had sold several pieces at different stores. She wasn't taking everything to one place. She was spreading it around. That told me something. She knew what she was doing. This wasn't desperation. It was planned. I called Ryan that afternoon. "Where's Vanessa?" "Why?" "I need to ask her something." "About the jewelry again?" I stayed quiet. Then he said, "Olivia, I told you. She didn't steal anything." I almost laughed. "You sound very sure." "Because she's my sister. And I'm your wife." He sighed. "Please don't start this again." I hung up. That evening, Vanessa came into the living room carrying several shopping bags. She dropped them beside the sofa. "Shopping?" I asked casually. She smiled. "Just a few things." I looked at the bags. One was from a luxury clothing store. Another was from a designer shoe shop. "Looks like more than a few things." She laughed. "Sometimes you have to treat yourself." I smiled. "Absolutely." She walked upstairs. I waited 10 minutes. Then I followed. Her bedroom door was slightly open. I wasn't going through her things. I didn't need to. Because something caught my attention. A receipt was lying on the floor near the door. I picked it up. It was from a jewelry store. The purchase date was 3 days earlier. The item? A diamond bracelet. The amount? $4,800. I stared at the receipt. Then I noticed something written at the bottom. Trade-in credit, $2,900. My stomach dropped. She hadn't paid $2,900 for that bracelet. She had traded something in. Something valuable. Something that belonged to me. I put the receipt exactly where I'd found it. Then I went downstairs. Ryan was sitting on the sofa. I looked at him carefully. "Did Vanessa buy a diamond bracelet?" He looked up. "Probably." "With what money?" He shrugged. "Her money." I nodded. "Right." Then I asked the question I'd been afraid to ask. "Did you know she was selling things?" His expression changed. Only for a second. But I saw it. "What things?" "My jewelry." He stared at me. "Why would I know that?" "I don't know." I walked away. That night, I barely slept. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps downstairs. I quietly opened my bedroom door. Vanessa was standing near the kitchen counter. She was holding something. My jewelry box. The same box I'd kept hidden inside my dresser. She opened it. Then she looked inside. I stood frozen in the darkness. She took out another piece of jewelry. I wanted to confront her right there. But something stopped me. She wasn't alone. Ryan walked into the kitchen. He looked at the jewelry in her hand. Then he looked at Vanessa. "How much?" My heart stopped. Vanessa answered quietly. About 2,000. Ryan nodded. That should cover it. I covered my mouth so they wouldn't hear me. My husband knew. He knew his sister was taking my jewelry, and he was helping her. But then Vanessa said something that changed everything. What about the rest? Ryan looked nervous. What rest? The money you promised me. There was a long silence. Then Ryan whispered, I told you. I'll handle it. Before she finds out? My blood ran cold. They weren't just hiding stolen jewelry. They were hiding money, and apparently there was much more at stake than the $18,000 I'd already discovered. I quietly stepped backward toward the bedroom. But before I could leave, Vanessa said, If Olivia finds out what we've done, she'll leave you. Ryan answered, She won't find out. I reached my bedroom and closed the door without making a sound. Then I sat on the edge of my bed. My hands were shaking, but my mind was suddenly clear. This wasn't a family misunderstanding. It wasn't Vanessa being desperate. It wasn't Ryan protecting his sister. They were working together, and whatever they were hiding, they were terrified I would discover it. So I decided to give them exactly what they wanted. I would pretend I knew nothing, but this time, I was going to find out everything.
The next morning, I woke up with one decision. I wasn't going to confront Ryan. I wasn't going to confront Vanessa. Not yet. Because now I knew they were hiding something bigger than my jewelry. And if I confronted them too early, they would simply change their story. So I needed proof. Real proof. I went downstairs and acted normal. Vanessa was sitting at the kitchen table. Ryan was making coffee. He looked at me and smiled. Morning, Liv. I smiled back. Morning. Vanessa watched me carefully. I could almost see the question in her eyes. Does she know? I made sure my face gave her nothing. Later that morning, I checked the security camera again. There was footage of Vanessa entering my room. There was footage of her leaving with my jewelry. But I needed something else. I needed to know where the money was going. So I checked the dates of every jewelry sale. Then I compared them with Vanessa's purchases. The pattern was obvious. Jewelry sold Monday, shopping Tuesday, jewelry sold Thursday, hotel booking Friday, jewelry sold Saturday, new designer shoes the following week. But there were also several large payments that didn't match anything she had bought. One payment was for $3,200. Another was $4,500, and then one for $6,000. All sent to the same person, a name I didn't recognize, Michael Harris. I stared at the transactions. Who was Michael Harris? And why was Vanessa sending him thousands of dollars? I searched his name. He was a real estate agent. That made no sense. Then I remembered something Vanessa had said several weeks earlier. She'd been talking about moving. At the time, I thought she meant finding an apartment. But suddenly, I wasn't so sure. That evening, I followed Vanessa. I didn't want to, but I needed answers. She drove across town and stopped outside a small office building. She went inside. 20 minutes later, Michael Harris walked out with her. They shook hands. Then Vanessa handed him an envelope. I took pictures from inside my car. When she drove away, I waited. Michael stayed behind. I walked into the building. The receptionist asked if she could help me. I'm looking for a Michael Harris. He's with a client. I pointed toward the office. Is he handling a property for Vanessa Carter? The receptionist smiled. Yes. My heart sank. What property? She hesitated. I'm sorry. I can't discuss a client's business. I thanked her and left. On the drive home, everything suddenly made sense. Vanessa wasn't just spending my money. She was using it to secure a new life for herself. But why had Ryan been involved? I needed to know. That night, I finally confronted Ryan, not with anger, with one simple question. Do you love your sister more than you love me? He looked shocked. What kind of question is that? The kind a wife asks when her husband keeps protecting someone who steals from her. He became defensive immediately. I placed my phone on the table. Then I played the security footage. Vanessa entering my bedroom, opening my drawer, taking my bracelet. Ryan's face went pale. He stared at the screen. Then at me. I can explain. I nodded. Please do. He sat down. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he finally whispered, she needed help. I laughed bitterly. So she stole my mother's jewelry? She was desperate. Then why didn't she ask me? He looked away. Because she knew you'd say no. That sentence hurt more than the theft. Ryan knew. He knew his sister was stealing from me. And instead of stopping her, he helped cover it up. But then he said something I wasn't expecting. She owes someone money. Who? He hesitated. Michael. I already knew the name. How much? Ryan looked at me. Almost $20,000. I felt sick. So that's what my jewelry paid for? He nodded. Mostly. Mostly? He didn't answer. I pushed harder. How much did you give her? Silence. Then he said, $8,000. I stared at him. From where? He looked down. From our savings. My entire body went cold. Our savings? He nodded. I was going to replace it. When? I don't know. I stood up. You took money from our marriage and gave it to your sister. I was trying to protect her. No, Ryan. I looked him directly in the eyes. You were protecting yourself. He didn't respond. Then my phone buzzed. It was an email. I opened it. It was from the jewelry store. They had sent me copies of the remaining transaction records. And there was one piece I hadn't known was missing. My mother's wedding ring. I felt tears fill my eyes. That ring had been the one thing I had specifically told Vanessa never to touch. I looked at Ryan. Where is my mother's wedding ring? He went completely silent. That was my answer. I walked upstairs. I opened my laptop. Then I began preparing everything. Bank statements, security footage, jewelry receipts, photographs, messages. Every piece of evidence went into one folder. I also contacted the jeweler and asked them to notify me if Vanessa attempted to sell anything else. Then I made one final move. I moved the remaining jewelry out of the house, but I left one small piece behind. A gold bracelet. Not because I wanted to lose it, because I wanted to see what Vanessa would do. The next afternoon, I went to work. When I came home, the bracelet was gone. I checked the camera. Vanessa had taken it. But this time, she hadn't noticed something. The camera captured her face perfectly, and in her hand was a receipt. She walked straight into the kitchen. Ryan was waiting. He looked at the receipt. How much? Vanessa smiled. Enough. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Once I get the apartment, I'm gone. Ryan looked relieved. And I finally understood. They weren't planning to repay me. They were planning to disappear. I stood outside the room listening. Vanessa continued. Olivia won't know until we're already gone. Ryan answered. She won't stop us. I quietly walked away. They thought they had won. They thought I was still the trusting wife who would forgive them. They had no idea that I had already spoken to someone who could help me. And by tomorrow morning, their entire plan was going to collapse. The next morning, I woke up before Ryan. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't even wake him. I simply took my evidence folder and drove to the jewelry store. The manager had already prepared everything for me. Copies of the sales records, dates, amounts, descriptions of every piece Vanessa had sold. And most importantly, the record for my mother's wedding ring. I stared at that page for a long time. Then I signed the paperwork confirming that the jewelry belonged to me. After that, I made one more call. A lawyer. I explained everything. The stolen jewelry, the security footage, the bank transfers, the money Ryan had taken from our savings, and Vanessa's plan to leave town with the money. The lawyer listened quietly. Then she said, "Don't confront them yet." Why? Because right now, you have something they don't know about. What? Proof. Those words gave me a strange sense of calm, so I went home, and I waited. Around noon, Vanessa came downstairs carrying 2 suitcases. Ryan was beside her. I looked at them. Going somewhere? Vanessa smiled. Just visiting a friend. I nodded. Have fun. She walked past me. Ryan stopped. He looked at me for a few seconds. Then he said, "I'll be back later." I smiled. Okay. The door closed. I waited until their car disappeared. Then I opened my laptop. Everything was ready. The lawyer had helped me freeze the remaining joint funds that could be legally protected, and the bank had flagged the suspicious transfers. But I wasn't finished. I had one final surprise. I had contacted the police and provided the security footage and jewelry records. The case was now officially documented. Vanessa had no idea. Ryan had no idea. They thought they were leaving with my money. Instead, they were driving straight into the consequences of what they'd done. That evening, Ryan called. "Liv, I'm going to stay at Vanessa's tonight." I said, "That's fine." He sounded surprised. You aren't angry? No. There was a long pause. Are you okay? I looked at the evidence folder sitting beside me. I'm better than I've been in months. He didn't understand what I meant. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Ryan? Yeah? Bring Vanessa with you. Why? There's something we need to discuss. He hesitated, then agreed. The next evening, they walked into the house together. Vanessa was smiling. Ryan looked nervous. I was sitting at the dining table. In front of me were three things: my mother's wedding ring, the security footage on my laptop, and a thick folder of documents. Vanessa stopped walking. Her smile disappeared. Ryan looked at the table. What is this? I stood up. This is everything you thought I'd never find. Vanessa immediately turned toward Ryan. Ryan? I pressed play. The video showed Vanessa entering my bedroom, opening my drawer, taking my jewelry. Then another clip showed her leaving with it. Vanessa started crying. I can explain. I raised my hand. No, you already explained everything. I placed the jewelry sale records on the table. $18,000 worth of my jewelry. Then I placed the bank records beside them. $8,000 from our savings. Then the final document. The money you sent to Michael Harris. Ryan looked at Vanessa. You told me that was for your debt. She started crying harder. It was. I looked at her. Then why did you use the rest to secure an apartment? She said nothing. Ryan turned pale. You were leaving? Vanessa looked at him. I had to. You were going to leave without telling me? She finally snapped. Because you were never going to let me start over. I stared at her. You didn't start over. I pointed at the evidence. You stole from me. Then I looked at Ryan. And you helped her. He lowered his head. I know. That was the first time he said it. No excuses. No, she's my sister. No, you misunderstood. Just, I know. I placed the final document on the table. The police have the footage. Vanessa's face went completely white. What? The jewelry stores have the sales records. She looked at Ryan. And the bank has the transfers. Ryan sat down. Vanessa began shaking. Olivia, please. I looked at her calmly. For months, you thought I was too trusting to notice. I picked up my mother's wedding ring. You were wrong. Vanessa started crying. Ryan stood up. Liv, please don't do this. I looked at him. You had months to stop her. He couldn't answer. You had months to tell me. Nothing. You had months to protect our marriage. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I believed him. But being sorry didn't undo what happened. I picked up my bag. I'm leaving. Ryan stepped toward me. Where? Somewhere my belongings are safe. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. And for the first time in 8 years, I didn't feel guilty for doing it. 3 months later, the jewelry case was settled. Most of my mother's jewelry was recovered through the investigation. The pieces that couldn't be recovered were repaid. Vanessa was ordered to repay what she had taken. Ryan and I separated, not because he had stolen the jewelry himself, but because when I needed my husband to protect me, he chose to protect the person hurting me. A year later, I moved into a small apartment of my own. I bought a new jewelry box, but I kept it almost empty because I learned something far more valuable than the price of gold. Trust isn't measured by how long someone has known you. It's measured by what they do when protecting you becomes difficult. And Ryan learned that too. He sent me a letter months later. There was only one sentence I remembered. I thought protecting my sister meant being a good brother. I didn't realize I was destroying the woman who trusted me most. I never replied. I didn't need to. Because sometimes revenge isn't screaming. Sometimes revenge is simply walking away with your dignity, your truth, and everything that belongs to you. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't destroy Vanessa. I didn't have to. I simply stopped protecting her from the consequences of her own choices.